Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us and our mystical moments and the things that, up until now have been thought of to be weird, to share. But here we share those things. We're all about the weird. And we're all about the fun, right? Like it can be fun to be alive and be interacting with angels and your guides and the cool stuff. And so I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I love these conversations. And what I really love is starting the dialogue, to teach people how to open these doors for themselves, where they have these crazy synchronistic experiences, mystical moments, and things that happen to them where they go, oh my gosh, that thing's happening for me now. This is so cool. And I'm like, yay, do the happy dance. And we have a lot of fun. So I just love this. I love opening it up for more people, and I live vicariously, and I'm kind of addicted to it. So that's what we do on Soul Nectar Show. We share some of those stories, and I get to interview really cool people like Amy Toy, who's with us today. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, how are you doing today, Carrie?
I am. I'm like fired up. So it's gonna be a good one. Amy's like, I'm calmer than you are.
Yeah. Just like your hair, you're fired up, man.
I'm fired up today. I'm moody. I don't know if my people notice it, but sometimes I'm like super in the mountain space, and I'm really grounded, and I'm expansive, and and my guests are like. And other times I'm super fired up, like today. So this will be an energetic episode, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So today, Amy is here, and Amy is just an amazing healer and intuitive counselor. She does past life regression therapist, integrated energy therapy practitioner, angelic healer, oracle reader, psychic medium, Reiki healer, and radio show host. I mean, like that is 60 seconds of fun in your mouth. Like that's a lot. She does a lot. And she's been doing readings and corresponding with the angelic realm for over 30 years, very adept at channeling angelic energy and healing. And she has clear cognition of connecting to source energy since the age of 3. And by 14 was proficient with the tarot readings. And so we're going to talk about her not 1, not 2, but 3 near-death experiences. Oh my goodness, which opened her transcendental gifts. So yeah, sometimes people getting to these beautiful gifts that like Amy has, that she's going to share with you today, you got to go through a few bumps, right? I mean, you got to bump your ego out of the way. So tell us a little bit. This isn't a bad thing, like, oh, it's so terrible, this near-death experience. And Amy's like, no, this was great. It was exactly what I needed. So tell us a little bit about your experience, where you started waking up to this big purpose you have.
I think it was the last one, my third one and my final one. I'm like, I wake up every morning, I'm like, look, dudes, not today. I'm not going to die today.
So don't have energy for this today.
Don't have energy. Well, that last one really kicked my ass. It was 19 years ago. So it was interesting because I was coming out of a religious cult. And I had left, and it was like my soul was so dead inside. So I was really screwed up back then. And I was praying, and I said, I didn't even know if I believed in God at that time. I really didn't. So I was praying, and I prayed, and I prayed. Well, I guess I prayed, and the angels woke my ass up that night in September of 2000, where my gifts were reawakened because I had suppressed them being in this cult because I didn't believe in, it was all from the devil and all this stuff. So it was like, it woke up everything. It was like I went through that door. Here you are, Amy, here you are. So it took me 2 years after that near-death experience, which I encountered the angels. They were very instrumental in bringing me to where I am now.
The angels are always present, and yet so respectful of your journey.
Yes, because one thing I've learned about the angels is you have to ask them to help you. You cannot just say, hey, let's, can you help me not drown? It's like you have to ask because they can't violate your free will. That is one of the fundamental truths that I've learned. So that's why I invoke my angels every day. It's like part of my daily ritual is to do that, is to invoke them, help me on my journey. Because this journey right now is, we got so many major shifts coming up astrologically, everything else. And I'm like, thank God my sign is not affected, but I know other people's are. So I don't
Well,
want to,
okay. So
I don't
now
want to get the choir right now.
I want to go back to something you said because you mentioned, so you were in a cult
Yes.
and it was a satanic cult, like a cult.
No, it was they come to your door every Saturday morning and Sunday,
Oh, those ones.
Jehovah's Witnesses. I was a seeker of truth when I was a teenager. I had come from a very toxic, dysfunctional household. So I was very vulnerable when they got me because I was always on a seeker, always looking to God, always looking for the Christ-like energy, just looking for help because that's what kept me sane throughout my childhood years was a belief in God and the angels. In fact, when I was 12 years old, I wanted to commit suicide.
Mm.
And one of our relatives was living with us, and she used to take heavy stuff like heavy painkillers, heavy tranquilizers, and I was going to kill myself. I was writing my letter, my suicide letter, literally, and I was going to take those pills. And I was praying to God. I'm like, because I knew I had a purpose, but I didn't know what it was at that age. And I heard a voice came down that said to me, literally, Amy, don't do this. You have a greater purpose. If you put down those pills, put those away, I promise I will lead you out of this. And it still gets to me. And that promise has been kept to me.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. I've heard a voice like that too, except mine told me to stop obsessing about past lives. Actually, it's so funny that you teach about past lives.
I don't even like past lives. I mean, I think, I do it for people. I'll lead them through it, but I'm like, why don't we just focus on like the thing, what's going on now, and then we'll clear out what's going on with the past lives. I don't even have to walk you through it. Let's just clear it out.
Yeah, well, it's our obsession with the past, right? It's our obsession with history.
Right. Yes, because the present is the present. It's a present from God, from the universe. It's our present, because the past and the future you can't change. You can't change the past. Yes, you can change the future and the present, but you can't change it right now. Just worry about what's in front of you.
So a lot of people get hung up though because they make their identity about the suffering and the struggle in their history
Yes.
and then hold on. So I know you've experienced some really tough things
Yes, I
growing
have.
up.
Yes, I did. I had a father and a mother who were both alcoholics. Father who was very abusive. A mother who was manipulative and narcissistic, sociopathic. We'll talk about that in a minute, with all that and learning from those two wonderful individuals. And having near-death experiences, almost being killed by a relative when I was 8 years old. I was not abused sexually, but I was verbally and physically, hurt. So there's a lot of stuff that I've gone through. Yes, but I don't hold that, Carrie, I don't hold that at, victimhood. It's like, what does my one friend said, get off the cross, we need the wood. I don't go on that cross. It's like, be the martyr. I went through this because I don't want to go there. It's like, I want to help people with my story. That's why I'll be starting my YouTube channel in December to talk about my stories, to help others, to catapult them to say, hey, this is where I was and this is where I have been, and now this is where I'm going. And you can
Yeah.
overcome it.
Yeah. And that's why you do it. I mean, that's why you share the message you do on your radio show too.
Yes. The radio show is instrumental. And sometimes it's like what you need to learn, you need to teach and heal. It's interesting. It's like what core wounds are coming up, and all you get these clients these days that, that's their theme of the day. And you're like, oh, shit.
I guess that's what I'm working on today. It's humbling, isn't it?
Yes, it's very humbling, but it's also very, it's amazing how synchronicity in the universe works. It's like how things just click together when you're in the flow and alignment with everything.
But you have to kind of go, I think you got to go through these dark parts. For some reason, we have to, I don't know why, but we have to go through these dark parts.
I think to appreciate the good in life and to transcend, that darkness in your soul. I think when you face your shadow self, like I did 10 years ago, I'm a recovering alcoholic. And I learned from my family, my father and my mother. And then when I was becoming like my father, this abusive alcoholic to the man I was with at the time, I decided to cut it off. So I sought help. And that journey was like taking parts of myself and really ripping things out and assembling them, but facing but I think it's more of you're a better person when you do that, because you're facing your shadow self, because you think, because you've been told all your life you're horrible, you're no good, you're invalidated when you speak your truth. And then when you face those shadow parts of yourself, you're like, wow, I'm a child of God, I'm a being of God, what the hell.
Yeah, like I remember who I am. I remember now.
Yeah, your sovereign self. And when you learn that you are just your own person, you may have come through people that were not the best people, but you learn those life lessons.
So for you though, the angel really did, it's like when we get a little bit too down in the gutter, then the angel comes and, okay, come on now, they're really not there.
Yeah.
You had that moment where you heard the voice, the
Yeah.
angel, and said, hey, I'm going to guide you out of this. So how did that angel start guiding you out? Like synchronistic connections and some new
Well,
opportunities?
I was really into the Bible back when I was a child. I was reading the Bible and I was reading the passages, and I started really getting strength from that and praying and just really tuning into I call it my sovereign self. Just looking within that godlike image that we all have in ourselves, that light that we have. And that's what got me through it. And growing up, I wasn't understood. I'm gifted as a child, I'm sensitive, I'm hearing things, I'm telling people, and I'm prophesying to people, and they're like, how the hell do you know that? Freaking people out. And you have all this stuff going on as a child, and you're just being yourself. And then you have the adults telling you, you're no good or whatever, you're not, you weren't supposed to be born. I was told I wasn't supposed to be born, but I'm like, okay, I'm here.
Well, you weren't supposed to be born. Well, who says that?
My
It
mother did.
happened. Isn't it supposed to
Yes.
be?
Yeah, that's what I said. My mother's like, well, you weren't supposed to be here. Your father didn't want you. And she was actually saying she didn't want me, when I learned to uncovered all the layers of that truth. And I'm like, okay, but I'm supposed to be here, so I have a greater purpose than you think, lady.
No, okay, so that is actually a really big pivot. I mean, there's a lot of people, and I think I'm working on this program with White Buffalo Calf Woman right now, and it's called Healing the Mother Wound. So we're going through, we're healing that
Yes,
deep, dark
yes,
stuff.
yes.
It's super uncomfortable for people, and
Oh, yes,
right
it
now,
is.
super painful.
It
I'm
is.
trying to make it good. I wave my rattle around at the end of every call, and I do a little, it's hard because it's,
Yes.
this is the idea that many people have until they waken of
Mhm.
this is my creator. But actually this isn't, no, it's not exactly true. Like at first, because we're trained to think like your mother and your father are your creator, and that
Right.
then when you move out of that is when you get to the bigger, more expansive divine mother. That's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother conversation, but I recently, because I was raised Catholic, so Mary is my mother and God is my father. Well, I knew God was my father a long time ago, because my father and I didn't have a great relationship until the last 2 years of his life, where we found forgiveness and understanding. And I understand him more now that he's passed on than my mother. I'm still working on that one.
Is she still alive?
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
so the personality is getting in the way. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just saying,
No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
sometimes
I,
it's easier when they cross over, because then the personality part's out of the way, and then you have access to the soul piece, and that's it's a lot more clear, right?
it does, because it was not until my father passed away that I did a session with forgiveness, and I understood why he came down here to teach me the lesson of self-love and forgiveness.
Which only you can give yourself.
Right. Yeah. But it's like he came through in a reading and he said, I have forgiven myself. Will you forgive me? And I said, I've always forgiven you. I understood him more than my mother. You see, I have to have understanding of why people do the things they do. A little bit of insight helps.
Insight is helpful, but it can also be,
A double-edged sword.
well, insight without integration.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that's what I was doing, was integrating all his story into my understanding. Where did that come from?
Your understanding of yourself, like your total self.
Yes.
Because I think that also, like with with abuse and things like that,
Yes.
whenever I found the light first, and I found this kind of pathway, then I started this process of like, okay, I'm going to become Carrie Heimbird. I don't even know what that was. And I'm going to leave all this other stuff behind and I'm just going to be this.
Right.
In the over the last couple years, then part of the journey is then to come back full circle to everything and love it all. Like everything that you ever were is like inside your bubble of love, you know. That part is a little challenging, especially if you have a parent that's still alive and they're really invested in the old story of you.
They are, but my part of my story is about 6 years ago after my father passed. I knew I was going to separate myself from her and my two half sisters, which that was the greatest gift because I was able to really heal. Because what would happen is I would do all these healing sessions and counseling and work on myself and I would just separate from them, and then I would go back in not fully healed and not fully ready and thinking, whoa, I have to do this because they're my family. What I was not understanding is I was hurting myself by doing that more. So this time around, I knew I had to sever ties completely, which meant leaving Buffalo, New York, from where I'm from, and moving down to Tampa, Florida. And that was the best thing because I was always drawn to Florida. I knew I was going to do a lot of work down here, and damn, the angels were pushing me down here, and damn, it was the best thing I ever did for myself because I found myself.
I really witnessed that. I also have been taking a break and finding myself
Mm-hmm.
and really opening to the bigger picture, the bigger divine mother
Yep.
that
Mm-hmm.
is really the only one that can fill you completely with that love for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this, and then I think from that full place, it's easier to have understanding, compassion for someone who has been practicing at being a mommy. Like,
Yeah.
like as a soul, there's the divine mother, and then there's the rest of us trying to practice doing what the divine mother does. We're
Yeah.
not going to be as good at it. We're not going to be as accomplished at it. It takes more, we're here learning how to do that, right? I mean, I'm a mom, so I know I've been definitely, my kids are my teachers. Like,
Yes.
they've taught me so much about love and how to be more loving.
Well, because of my upbringing, I had decided not to have children. But I don't regret that decision because when I think back, I don't think I would have been a great mother. I would not have been able to be present. I would have been I was messed up. I didn't want to have a child go through what I went through, the neglect, the abuse, the drinking, all that stuff. I just could not put my child through what I had gone through.
And there's a lot of people in our generation that feel the same way, that made the same choice.
Well, I mean, when you're having miscarriage after miscarriage, you're just like,
Kind of the
okay,
sign.
it's kind of decided for you, And talking about past lives, I have a friend of mine who said, you had past life in the late 1880s, and you had like 12 kids, and you were a midwife, and you were like in that lifetime, no more kids. You're done. You just were kid outed.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense. And you finding a way to really honor your own path and really love your own path for what it is in this lifetime, right?
It's like, I learned a long time ago, I had to live with my decisions myself. I had to look myself in the mirror and say, could I live with this or could not I live with this? So it's kind of like, okay, every day I wake up and I live with myself and I'm happy with my life and I'm happy with the choices. And if I make a mistake, I make what they call, amends in the 12 steps, and I go to that person and I say, I'm sorry. But I try not to do that because I have to live with myself. And I don't want to hurt anyone intentionally. And I know we do that all the time. We hurt people unintentionally, but I don't want to do that.
But you don't seem timid to me. Like, you're not letting it stop you from expressing yourself.
I'm not. My friend said like that yesterday. I was with my one friend who's she's a wonderful healer too. She's my Reiki instructor actually, and we've become very good friends. And she's like, she's looked at me like, you really speak your mind, don't you? Yes, I do.
Okay, but Amy, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Some of us are here, aren't we, to disrupt things?
Yes. Well, I did it with my family of origin. I disrupted their little groove going on, of course. And you know what? I look back and I was happy being the troublemaker, the rebel of the family. You know, and on Facebook, I have black, you know, the black sheep. Always listen to the black sheep because they speak the truth. They
Yeah,
maybe
or I like to call it rainbow sheep.
rainbow sheep. I like that too.
Make it more friendly. But yeah, I mean, you're here to disrupt the patterns. You know, we're not here to go along with the status quo. So
No,
inevitably, somebody's feelings are going to get hurt, right? I mean,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
part of the deal.
yeah. It's off my chest. I learned a long time ago. If I'm keeping it in, I'm hurting myself. And if they don't like what I have to say, oh well, too bad. And I'm not being insensitive. It's just sometimes you're hurting yourself by holding back the truth.
Exactly. You're hurting yourself by holding back the truth. And this is something that just came out when I did a ceremony with my older son, just to you know, to connect with him, to meditate, to get clear, and to see like, okay, what's some of the blocks that are here that we could shift out of the way. Like I like to see deeper into my shadow. Okay, what's in my shadow? I need to know. And what came out was, and he's a very excellent psychic communicator, so we were communicating back. It's actually easier for him to communicate psychically than with words. So we were psychically communicating, and he was like, "Mom, here's the thing. You know, you're not leaving space for me to tell the truth because I don't want to hurt you.
Mm,
And if I told you my truth, your feelings would be hurt."
mm,
And I said in that moment, I'm like, tell the truth. I don't care if it hurts my feelings. Tell the truth. That's the only thing I want you to do. Because when you're clear and you're aligned and you're telling the truth, you're not hurting yourself. And
mm,
my whole goal is you not to hurt yourself. So we
mm,
can help each other if you would just tell the truth,
mm,
right? And then I'll just, as a mother, I feel like then I can deal with whatever you're telling me.
mm. But where I came, well, growing up where I came from, that's the truth, you know, speaking my truth, that was invalidated. I had seen things in the family that I brought to my mother and sometimes my father's attention, and it was invalidated. So I was shut down
Yeah,
for a while.
because the system that you were in was not willing to grow. Like it wasn't a
Yes,
transformation system, it was a stagnation system.
exactly. And my guides, my angels have explicitly told me that my karma with them is done because I did my duty. I did everything I could to bring the truth to them, and they chose not to take it. That is not my problem. That is their problem. And I was like, woohoo, I'm off the hook here. Have a nice life, you know. And that's how I feel. I have really felt like, you know, I don't even know who they are anymore because I've worked so much on myself. And like,
Mm.
and occasionally they do try to contact me, and it's kind of like it's an invasion of privacy because I wouldn't even know who they are. They wouldn't
Yeah,
even know.
people have a hard time understanding that when they don't transform themselves. They don't understand like you're fundamentally a different person now because of the
You
work
are.
that you've done.
Well, I mean, like I had my brother-in-law, I used to say, I remember you were a kid, you know, because my sisters are a lot older than my half sisters are a lot, you're like 16, 11 years older than I am. So he met me when I was 4 or 5 having tantrums, and he would still bring that up. I'm like, dude, I'm 32. Get over it. You know, keep playing that story, okay? Or my sisters say, Mom used to bring you McDonald's because you didn't want dinner. I'm like, okay, you can keep saying that story, but it's not who I am now. And they don't get that. So sometimes you have to disconnect from that family because they're bringing you down. They're putting you back in they're trying to fit you in a mold that you used to be. And you're not that anymore because you've outgrown them. You have moved forward. You have learned new ways of coping with life. You have a spiritual toolbox, I call it, where you have all these tools now, and those old ways don't serve you anymore. And I get so many calls about this lately where people are like, my sisters don't get me, my brother doesn't get me, my mother doesn't get me, my father doesn't get me, you know, even the cat doesn't get them. I don't know. But I mean, it's kind of
My
like,
cat still wants me to feed it breakfast. I don't
yeah,
know what's going.
whatever it is. And it's like, okay, why don't we just honor who you become because you have done a lot of work on self. And that's the people I like to talk to because sometimes you have to talk them off the ledge and remind them, this is how far you have come. And you can't worry about what they think or say because that's not really actually none of your business. Second of all, you are a different person altogether. And if they choose not to honor or respect that, then they're not supposed to be on your path. And, you know, I think society makes these, you know, well, they're your blood, they're this, you're there. And that I used to get caught up in that, like I said, with those practice periods where I didn't talk to, my family. And I'm like, just because you're my blood doesn't mean you can treat me and hurt me and be abusive to me and disregard me and dismiss me and invalidate me. I no longer accept that. So you are no longer allowed in my life.
And I have definitely walked the same terrain. And but
I
one
like
of the
that
things,
terrain.
yeah,
I like that terrain. That's a good one. Yeah, because it's a rocky terrain.
it's
It's
a
not.
very rocky terrain. You got to be careful of your footsteps in there because you could slip and fall. So I mean, the thing that keeps sucking me back to contemplation of it is like this feeling like, oh well, somehow if I have awareness and I'm able to see these things, then that automatically seems to make me the person that has to do something with it. And even if they don't know anything about it or they don't see it or they're going to keep. And so I was just talking with somebody, they're like, well, Carrie, you have two options. I was like, okay, great. Thank you for telling me the options because I want to know what the options are. Like,
Yeah, just tell me what to do here.
just tell me which options I have. So it was like, okay, you option A, you just live your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible for fixing it. There's multiple people involved and everybody has a choice. And so you've already offered your olive branch. And if, you can't force people to change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Or you willingly, knowingly go back into the melee, knowing that they're not going to change. They're going to keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
And you just use it as a spiritual exercise to bolster yourself and get stronger and find out where your little, where are all the places that somebody can poke me, like it's like shadow work. Like you just use it as your shadow work. You go back in and say, okay, where'd my bubble get poked, and like go and do the healing work. But then you can't, either way, you can't blame them. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no more, the blaming shaming game is over. Like if you go back in, you go back in conscious that you're going back into a thing that's not going to change.
Well, you see, I went back in time and time and time again,
To try to fix it.
or tried to tolerate it after a while. And when my dad was sick for the last 2 years, because I'm separate than the other two. I'm from a different father altogether, and that, and they were like, I just tolerated it because of him, because I wanted to be there for him. I felt the need to be there for him. But after a while, it was just like too much. It just nearly destroyed me. It just nearly destroyed who I was. And so I had to that's when I said, when he died, I was like, I'm severing it. I'm just cutting it off. I've done everything I can. My karma's cleared. And I knew deep down I was going to do that. 6 months before his death, because I knew he was going to pass away. I knew I was going to do that. They just made it easier for me.
Yeah, and I think that we don't have to tolerate being abused, that being a doormat is not part of the job description of being a light worker.
No, but people think, well, you have to be nice. Well, you're this light worker. You're supposed to shine light on everybody. But sometimes they don't want your light.
Sometimes they're like, get that light out of here,
That's too bright.
I want to go back to sleep. I'm sleeping. Stop shining light in my face. They don't want it.
No, and it took me such a long time to accept that. It took me such a long time to accept I had done everything I could to help them and try to see that I had changed and I was this different person than I was, and I'm not the alcoholic and I'm not this loudmouth person they, accuse me of being, which I'm a loudmouth, but I don't drink. So.
Well, loudmouth, is just another way of saying you're always saying things that make me uncomfortable. And truth is actually something that makes people uncomfortable.
It does. And so I'm very grateful. I'm surrounded by very loving women in my life who have really kind of mothered me in some way too, which is what I needed besides Mother Mary or Gaia, Mother Earth. And one of them said to me, well, do you pray that they become evolved? I said, I just pray that they are well on their path and they stay the hell out of my path.
Yeah. I mean, you can pray for happiness, right? From a distance.
Right, you can pray for happiness. I wish them well. It's not that I wish them ill or anything. I wish them happiness. I hope they find their path like I have found my path. but I don't want them in my sovereign space anymore.
Well, and it's that boundary, like creating that boundary for yourself to
Mhm.
know self-care and what you need to be happy, you know? And I feel like if I ever got to the place where, gosh, I grow by leaps and bounds, so anything is possible. I mean, it's just kind of like this path of transformation is kind of astounding.
Mhm.
I just kind of let it all go. Like I'll give it to the spirit of death and I'll say, here you go. You know,
Yes.
here's all my stories. I just did it last night. I said, okay, here's my story about how my mom was so mean. I'm just giving it to you. I'm just surrendering it to you. Maybe it's not true anymore. So I just like I just keep giving the story away. And I
Mhm.
just keep hoping for a new story. Like, okay, maybe there'll be a new story now. Like if I give that one up and I really surrender it and I forgive it and I release it, I know the divine is like endlessly amazing. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. I'm not discarding that, but I'm also to keep my peace and my
Look,
serenity.
appropriate boundaries. Yeah, not tossing yourself to the wolves. Like
Right. It's like, okay, I have my path, and if they choose to be happy, and I don't even know at this point, I don't want a relationship with them though. If that's where I've come
mhm.
to. I just feel like a relationship would be very difficult to have with any of them because, like I said, I'm a different person. I wouldn't even know who they are. They wouldn't even be speaking the language we're speaking to each other. At least we understand each other, Carrie. We're just dialoguing
I know
back.
it's kind of amazing, like how you know what I'm saying. Like we've only talked a few times, but there's a certain knowing, like people that are really tapped into the Christ consciousness and the
Yeah.
group, that group consciousness. It it's just you sort of know each other.
You do, and that's what I'm saying. So if I go to my family of origin and try to talk to them like this, they're going to look at me like I have three heads, and they'll be like, "Do you need an exorcism or something?" I mean, this is how these people would think.
Yeah,
Do you need an exorcism? No, maybe you need one, but I'm just kidding. You never know.
you never know. It might help, but there are like different understandings, and I remember being in the different understandings. Like I remember, I don't like I wouldn't say I have total access to it, but I can put myself there. And the other thing is I've been learning a lot is like, well, we don't really want to lower our vibration.
Right, exactly.
So we want to be like in a space where you
Hmm.
can maintain your vibration at the frequency that it feels good to you.
Hmm.
And no matter who you're around, you're holding that.
Right. Which has taken a lot of work. Like I'm doing, I was recertified as a Reiki master last couple weeks. I took it years ago. Don't remember taking it, but okay. So my friend's like, I'll teach it. Karuna Reiki. Now I'm doing Lytherian Reiki, where it's going to be channeling the ascended masters of a higher vibration. Integrated energy therapy. That is channeling the angelic realm and clearing the DNA, the 12 strands of the DNA. That's my favorite because it goes right into the issues in the tissues and clears it out. And that's what I've done a lot of work with. I do sessions every once a month. We do exchanges, friends of mine. We just work on our issues. We clear it out. What's coming up for me now, the shadow self, as you call it, let's clear it.
Yeah, exactly. Like working with the shadows and clearing it and ascending the vibration. And we're doing it on behalf of everybody. So the more of us that actually
Well,
focus and do that, it
well,
heals.
that well, I was just talking to my ancestral. We talked about that ancestral clearing the line, and that's what I've been working with my mother's line, my father's line, clearing out all this crap. So I'm
And
doing my
sometimes I think like the actual 3D interactions, they can actually detract from the work
hmm
because they re-instigate the conflicts and the lower vibration energies. Whereas if we just work with the fifth dimensional realms and higher on the issues, we can clear it a lot faster
right, because
without
you're like,
re-wounding it.
right, you don't want to you don't want to keep rubbing salt in that wound anymore, and that's what I was doing, going back into the family system
Right.
all the times. And I was like, this ain't working for me because my father's passed, and I was reminded I was his child, and I was, like I said, I was a daughter of another man, so it was kind of like, okay, it was just kind of easy when I look back now, it was kind of easy to sever ties, and I'm okay
Yeah,
with
and then you have the support etherically, which
Yeah,
This is the
that's
benefit of this path, is that then you can be aware of your relatives, your ancestors supporting you from beyond the veil and doing the work.
and boy, do they haunt me.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
just,
always
they
every
always are around. Yeah, they always are around in a good way, in a good way. I get visits a lot, and I
yeah.
laugh and I'm, oh, you're still around, just in a different capacity.
And I still send love. I mean, like I feel the way I feel in my body about, like, say, my family, is that I love them. I love them very much. I love their sweet souls that they are. The personality that's encasing it, I'm not so in love with sometimes, but the actual soul, the sweet soul and the loving soul that's underneath all that crust, I'm totally, of course, love that soul. Otherwise I wouldn't be in this lifetime with that soul, right? I wouldn't have chosen that. But
Mhm.
the crusty personality part, I'm not as enamored of.
Yes,
Um,
I
that
know that.
part. So I just
No,
try to be compassionate, but being compassionate is easier from a distance.
I feel it is, and I feel like if you really want to find out who you are, is to be on your own and just go for it. And sometimes you find your tribe, your chosen family that way, which I have found. And
Which is
it's,
easy, right? Like all you do is start a podcast and start talking about spirituality, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of friends.
oh, she understands me, It's like, it's not foreign, it's not alien. No, and I think we're in a shift now with families where the patriarchal society standards is being crushed right now and being reassembled and built. Because like I said, it's all about the blood of the family. Well, they're your blood. Well, that's BS because, sometimes family is your teachers. They're the entrance ramp into the airport. When you get into the airport, you can go somewhere else. You came through them and you can go somewhere else. You can choose to fly to Portugal or, Russia or Australia or whatever in a different path. And I feel that's the way I look at it. It's an entrance ramp for me.
Yeah, and that in the second wave that some of the wisdom that came through from White Eagle was like, oh, y'all are not part of those soul pods either. So like you just crashed, you like soul pod crashers,
Yeah, yeah. I
like
used to. Yeah, I
scattered
used,
across the globe, right? And so now, like, some people you resonate with more closely, it's because you're part of that soul pod. It's just that we all went around the whole planet and became like injected ourselves into family systems.
yes, we learned a lot from those family systems, and we blessed them and we wish them well. But now it's time for us to live our path and be happy and just do what makes you happy. People ask me, how do I find out what I love, what I want to do with my life? So what do you love to do? You'll find your purpose and your passion that way. It's not rocket scientist. It's not being a rocket scientist. It's not rocket science. It's very simple. I
It's
think we
following your heart, and it's letting go of all the conditioned ideas, like the conditioned ideas about what is family, the conditioned ideas about blood, for example. All these conditioned ideas about what do you do on Thanksgiving, and oh, I'm missing out because of whatever the thing is. We have to kind of dismantle all that now and
it's
discard it and then create something new.
and that's hard to dismantle for some people because they're still caught up in the Waltons, good night, John Boy, or whatever that was back in the day. And
Yeah.
that's not what the family is. When you look at the truth of your family and how certain people, like, because I'm very sensitive as a child. I have a half sister that just tolerated me for holidays, and I could sense that, and that was the most hurtful, painful thing. And my mother's like, well, we're family and we're supposed to be around each other. Now, after a while, I just started disengaging that. But it was a process. This is not something that I came to yesterday and said, oh, by the way, it doesn't happen. It's a process. And I think, our listeners here need to honor that process within themselves. And I
Yeah, and
think
there's
that
stages to it too.
there's a lot of stages. It's grieving, also mourning the family you wish you had. Okay, you don't have the Waltons as a family. You have the Adams family. Great, wonderful. Accept Morticia as your mother. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, you have to accept reality and what's really in front of
Yeah, and you have to listen to your higher guidance as a top priority. It's like,
you. Yes.
and
Yeah.
sometimes the higher guidance like recommends something that your conditioned mind thinks is like horrible, or like, no, I couldn't. And I think that's the conflict that we get into, right,
Yeah.
Amy? We're going back and forth
Yeah,
because
I
the
remember.
angels are saying one thing, and then they're telling you this, don't keep going back there, but you're like, but I'm supposed to. And then you have this conditioned response, like, I have to go back into the situation, and the angels are like, this is making it worse, so like,
Yeah, and you're like, you're really destroying yourself while you keep going back into that toxic environment. And I had to really, it's kind of like it was a trial and error, and some people go through that. Like, they'll call me and they'll say, Amy, she invited me for Christmas, for example, my mother, and I'm going. I said, okay, and I support my clients on that, and then they come back, I should have gone, you're right. Yes, I support you, whatever you do, okay, whether you go back in or not. Everyone has their learning curve.
yeah, because we're learning, and there's no fast answers. Like, because maybe
Right.
that would have been a good decision. Maybe something came up out of that was really healing, an opportunity for growth, or, so yeah, I think we're all navigating this space, Amy. I feel like we're all doing it together, and there's no clear cut answers.
No, there isn't. Everybody has their own path, and I had to learn that a long time ago, that everybody had their own path, and I can't put my ideas on somebody else. If you ask my opinion, I'm going to give you it, or suggest something. I'll give that to you, but it's up to you to follow it. And that's really hard because, I used to want to save everybody. Oh, that poor soul, I want to save them from themselves. Well, maybe they want to be saved.
I'm telling you, I was holding open. The portal that when we crossed up to the new earth, and we're going up. All right, and I got through the portal, and I turned around and I held it open. I was doing that for years. I was holding this portal open to the new earth, and I'm like, what is this taking so much energy? Like, some of these people, they don't want to come along. There is choosing to be down in the lower vibrations, and I don't know why they choose that, but they are choosing that, and we just have to honor and respect that that's the soul journey they wanted to take this time around. They want to be down in the mud. It's like, okay.
That's, well, because it's comfortable and familiar, but where we have chosen to be on the uncomfortable terrain. I like that, because the terrain to me is very rocky. You have to watch your step. You have to make sure you don't fall on your ass and all that. And if you do, you pick yourself up. But it's all about you, really. It's not about them anyway. And you
Yeah,
have
it's
to,
that journey to interdependence and sovereignty.
right. It's the sovereign self. And it's like, if they choose to come along, hey, great, let's do this. And if not, that's their prerogative. And you have to wish them well. Sometimes you have to also walk with people on their path only a certain amount of time, and then they find someone else to help that needs their,
Yeah, because I think it can actually get too jarring when the energies get really disparate, and then it's not healthy for either you or the other person. I think that's the case with a lot of these, family of origin issues can kind of come
Mhm.
back around to that. It just gets really jarring when the energies and everything is different. Even if you try to just sort of be low key, it's just you're being low key at a higher vibration. It's like sandpaper on somebody else's energetic field who's got a lot of crust.
Exactly. So it's kind of like I've learned to let go of certain things and certain ideas and opinions, and I can only save myself. Only can save myself.
And that's all we really, we're here to learn and grow. We're on our own mission. There'll be other lifetimes. This is just a temporary configuration anyway with, these, because the real divine mother is the divine mother. I mean, there is only one.
Mhm.
And this is just a temporary little playing dolls, like
It
trying it
is.
out.
One saying I do remember, this too shall pass. And I used to say that. Actually, my mother used to tell me that this too shall pass. And she, when you look back, you can look at the good in a lot of the people. And, there's negative, obviously, but that saying always sticks with me. And there's always a reason why you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't get out without learning something.
None of us get out of here alive. We might as well take advantage of
Might as
it.
well, yeah, might as well enjoy the process. I mean, you're here, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, what a lot of wisdom you've learned on your journey. And I know it was hard won, and I know that a lot of tears went into what you shared
Hmm.
with us today, and a lot of heartbreak. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I'm good. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And when something does come up, I can handle it because I've overcome, I think, the bigger stuff. And when something, I mean, the little stuff annoys me still, but it's like, I can deal with this. It's all good. This
Yeah,
too
I could
shall.
just breathe through this glitch in financial prosperity, or breathe through this problem with my car, or whatever. This, like
Yes.
after you've been through this big stuff, it's like whatever. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like a gnat, compared to this stuff. Yeah. Well, so it makes you resilient. It makes you a good asset. So how do people work with you? Do you have a free gift or something, or a way to people to connect with you? Besides
Well,
your radio station, I mean.
I'm going to be working on my YouTube is going to be launching December 13th of this year. I'm working on the free gift process. It's like I'm having the website revamped. It's amytoy.com. But they can reach me on my email, angelicamy35@gmail.com. Everything's getting revamped. I'm in the middle of a reinvention right now.
And I think this is actually going to go live like just 1 week before your YouTube station. So I will put a link to it, and we'll make sure that people get that. And they can also tune into your radio show.
Angel
And that
Answer with Amy Toy on bbsradio.com.
is that on iTunes too?
Yes, it's all over the place. Doug and Don Newsom have done a wonderful job getting the podcasts out there. And we are going to be doing a new season pretty soon. You were on recently, but your show was aired. But we're going to be launching in January a whole new season. I took this year off just to kind of regroup and do 10 years of reruns, but we're going to do some new stuff this year coming up.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. I can't wait to hear like what you're going to be offering.
Different things, but no. So you can find me everywhere. Just Google Amy Toy. I'm the only one that really comes up besides dolls. I mean, come on, I'm not a doll.
Some people be like, you're my kind of doll. You're my angel doll.
I just have the horns sometimes instead of the wings.
Sometimes you need the horns.
Yes.
Some people need the horn instead of the wings. And it's all love. It's all love. It's all the same.
Yeah, sure.
So it's all love. Okay. Well, thank you for being on the show. It was a really great conversation around these difficult topics, and how we can bring love and light to it, and get off on our own path and really start just enjoying our own life. Like, gosh, I'm 50. It's time, like, come on.
Yeah, I know. I moved to Florida when I was close to 40. I was like, this is great, man.
Freedom!
I'm retired, but I'm not. I mean,
you got there early.
Yeah, I got there early.
Plus, you get to talk to angels all day long. That's not such a bad job. It's pretty cool. You can keep doing that till the day you die. That's kind of how I felt about mine. I was like, this is awesome. I can keep talking. I can talk. I can always talk. It's a great way to make your money. Awesome. Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in. And hey, definitely like Amy's podcast. I'm going to put the link in the show notes below, so you'll be able to go right to it on BBS or on iTunes, because, subscribe to it, because this is really how more people find this information, is because you guys subscribed, and then it goes up in the ranks and all that kind of stuff. So, and give us a 5-star rating if you want. I think you should do it, because I think it's pretty good content. So I think you should go up there and give us a 5-star rating for this Soul Nectar episode, and help more people find it, and share it out, because everybody needs angels in their life, right, Amy?
Yes, they do.
Everybody needs angels. Angels that'll tell you the truth.
Yes. Yes.
Not those other fluffy angels, the one that tell the truth. Those.
That's Archangel Michael.
Yeah, get hit. Boy, you're going to hear the truth like this. Kind of like that anyway.
Or just contact me. I'll tell you the truth.
Very direct.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, you guys. Really loved having you on the show, Amy. Really glad everybody tuned in with us. And thanks for coming on. And hey, if you tweet this out and you tag a Soul Nectar show, the code word for this time is Amy Angel. That is the code word. And when you use that code word, then you get entered into a raffle for a really cool prize. And I'm going to decide what that is. I'm going to surprise you. But if you say Amy Angel and you use the Soul Nectar Show on Twitter, then you might get something really fun. You want to try it out, right, Amy?
Right. Definitely.
Amy Angel. All right. I'll talk to you guys next week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And thanks for tuning in to us on Soul Nectar Show. Bye, everybody.
Bye.